Ladies and gentlemen, we finally have some Eagles breaking news. That's right, you see it right there. Just a few moments ago, the Eagles agreed to terms to bring back Brandon Graham on a one-year deal. Obviously very expected for a long time, but it is officially done. BG back for a 15th year, and he was just on a podcast recently talking about this is going to be my final year. Yeah, well, here comes the farewell tour, man. One of the greatest Eagles ever. Obviously has the most memorable play in franchise history. Shout out to BG. It's good to have him back for yet another season. But we're just getting started as the rumors are unpiling here on a Saturday morning and afternoon. Welcome on in. A to Z Philly, you know the drill. Hit the like button, subscribe to the show, and ring the bell so you don't miss any of the coverage. We need to talk about the defensive line because it doesn't stop there. Now there are multiple players being shopped. What do you think the Eagles should do? Who should they keep? Who should they let go? What are your thoughts on the Eagles defensive line right now? We know it's always a priority with Howie Roseman. So give me all your thoughts. Sound off in the comments before we get into it. A shout out to our partner of today's show, and that's BetMGM. As always, BetMGM allows you to enjoy your favorite sports like never before. Sign up with the code ATOZPA and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you do not win your first bet. When you register with BetMGM, you'll get instant access to parlay selection features, live betting options, player props, and daily boosted odds specials. And with BetMGM at your fingertips, every play and every game matter more than ever. So find out why BetMGM is the king of sportsbooks. Sign up today with the code ATOZPA and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. Take your futures on the Eagles bouncing back next year because Howie is active and he is making moves, and it seems like a lot is just getting started underway here in this offseason. So, in addition to Brandon Graham, we need to talk about another stud on the defensive line because this came out of left field this morning. We've been, talking about Haason Reddick. He's getting shopped, etc. But how about Josh Sweat? Dianna Russini drops a bomb out of nowhere. The Eagles have been shopping both Josh Sweat and Haason Reddick, or she said Riddick, but it's Reddick, for the last few weeks. Look for Philadelphia to aggressively pursue Bryce Huff in free agency. So, Bryce Huff, could he be a potential free agent target for the Philadelphia Eagles? But before we get into that, how do we feel about Josh Sweat? Obviously coming up on the last year of his contract extension, and, he's had an up and down tenure. Overall, I think he's been solid. I think, at times he hasn't really been maximized on this defensive line because of some of the strategy and not being aggressive, etc. You could say that about other players, but I do agree Josh Sweat is like a back and forth type of player, right? Like some games he'll go out there and just be an absolute menace, and then sometimes you don't hear about him for 4 weeks. But Josh Sweat, more on that. John Clark says Bryce Huff had 10 sacks for the Jets last year. He's 25, could be a potential replacement. But Sheil Kapadia talks about Josh Sweat, and he says recent trade comps for Sweat include Montez Sweat and Bradley Chubb. Montez netted a 40th overall pick and was only under contract for half a season. That was the Bears trade last year. And then Bradley Chubb got a first, and he says personal opinion, Josh Sweat has more trade value than Haason Reddick. First round pick is likely the asking price. And if you're sitting there going, well, why does Josh Sweat have more value than Haason Reddick when Haason Reddick has clearly been better? He has put up more of a stable sample size the last 3-4 years. Well, it's all related to age, right? Haason Reddick is a couple years older, and Josh Sweat has shown more upside at a younger age. So that's really all it comes down to. I think both those guys can net you some assets. And when I start to kind of peel back the layers, I'm starting to paint a picture on more of what Howie Roseman is actually doing here. He's taken the same approach that he did after the last Eagles Super Bowl, right? They came back, they tried to run it back, add a few minimal pieces. What happened? It blew up in their face, didn't work well. So what did Howie do? He started to trade off some of the pieces that you're sitting there going, oh, I love this guy. Oh, I love this guy. He's been great a couple years ago. But Howie's saying, no, we need to get better now. We need to add more draft capital, and we need to just upgrade in any way that we can. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that trading Josh Sweat automatically makes you better today. Right now, if you get a better replacement, if you get a young stud like a Bryce Huff, Yeah, okay, then, you're working with something here. You're getting younger, you're getting more talented, more dynamic, and you're adding draft capital. But that is a big if, right? It has to happen. Last year, the Eagles tried to run it back with Darius Slay and James Bradbury and all these different guys. Again, it blew up in their face just like it did back in 2018. And Howie has to start making some tough decisions. Now, again, I believe that Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick are studs. I think they can still play at a high level, and I think they can be productive. But I think Howie Roseman is looking at it not only next year, the year after, but the next 3, 4, 5 years. How can this team compete and get back to where they want to go? Now, I will say it's a bit concerning when you think about the Eagles' D-line chart, and DE chart, right? Like, obviously, BG's coming back, and Fletch seems like he's going to retire. You have to hope and pray you can get Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis to play like the first-round picks they are. But other than that, man, at your edge position, who do you have? If you go out and trade these guys, you're really going to have to do some digging and do some work to get better replacements. But, it's not by any means saying that they're going to trade these guys. It's just that Howie is shopping them around and he's kind of, fishing, right? He's putting them out there as bait in the water. What can we get? What are teams showing interest in? If Howie can pull off a first-round pick, yeah, I think he's going to do the trade 100%, especially with a contract year coming up. He doesn't want to pay him again. So I think that that's Howie Roseman's strategy right now. Now, Jeff McLean adds on to this. He says, not an either-or situation from what I understand. If the Eagles can move both Reddick and Sweat, they will, and they will be aggressive in how they replace them. Everyone has a price, but the team was also not happy with the lack of production from the starting edges and how they played in the defense in the second half of last season. I don't think that's necessarily fair. Now, every guy's got to look in the mirror, right? They didn't play well. Nobody played well. They had a historic collapse. But to target these two, when you look at a defensive scheme that was flawed, when you look at a replacement of a coordinator, when you're playing, when you have a really good record, you're not playing the best, but you have a really good record and guys didn't really understand the move, and then they kind of lacked motivation at all because they didn't really understand what they were trying to buy into. I don't think it's fair to just, blame these two, but I will agree. They could have played better. They could have done more. Like I said, I felt like I didn't see Josh Sweat for the last 10 weeks of the season. Same with Jalen Carter and other guys like that. So, yeah, I think you have to evaluate at every single position, and I think Howie's going to try to replicate his strategy from years ago, and sometimes that includes tough decisions, and you have to upgrade at certain margins that you may not think you have to until you start evaluating and seeing what's out there. So, I would expect them to be heavy in the draft in that area as well. You look at some of the picks they got, even yesterday, the Eagles got some compensatory picks they were awarded in this draft. Another 3rd rounder, 5th rounder, 5th rounder, 6th rounder. So you pair that with what they already have, they are loading up on some ammunition, and I think they're going to be heavy in the draft, especially on the defensive line now in some ways, because if they try to shop these guys, they need to get some playmakers in here. So I could see that happening. Maybe they could package some picks and even move up as well. So we'll kind of wait and see how that goes. Like I said, Josh Sweat on a 3-year, $40 million extension, which will allow him to become a free agent in 2025. But I just want to look at Bryce Huff real quick because here are his numbers. Last year had a breakout season. He's 26 years old, and he had 10 sacks. He actually, used to be a kind of a linebacker, and then they moved him up to an edge. So, he's played different positions. He's versatile, and, he was just kind of, treading water. He was an undrafted player, and, then last year he kind of breaks out. Is this the time to chime in? I mean, the reports said that he's looking for $20 million a year. Is this the time to go ahead and bank on him? Having another season like this, maybe it's not a one-hit wonder. I don't know. It's a little bit risky. You look at Josh Sweat. Like I said, he's been up and down, right? Last year, 6.5 sacks. I feel like most of those came early in the season. The year before that, he had 11, 7.5 before that, 6. So, again, you look at these numbers, they don't really jump off the chart. We know that Josh Sweat can be a game changer, but, it needs to be a lot more consistent. And I'm not mad at all at how he's sitting there going, look, if I can get a top draft pick for these players, why not? This is the time to do it. But again, you have to have a smart strategy in place for replacement. You have to find a way to keep this team young and moving forward and also getting better at the same time, because I don't think they're going into a full rebuild, right? Like, they want to win now. Howie just needs to figure out, kind of the best way to go about that. So all comes down to a money thing. Unfortunately, sometimes you need to see the players you like go. we'll see how this plays out. It's going to be very interesting. Free agency will open up. Whatever the Eagles decide to do, they know there are certain positions, linebacker, now defensive end, maybe safety, running back, that they really need to target. And there are a lot of options out there for once. It's a very dense market, so there is no excuse to not get better. But those are all my thoughts. What do you think down below? Once again, happy to see Brandon Graham coming back to the squad. Give me all of your thoughts in the comment section. As always, I appreciate you all for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. That being said, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.